Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Challenge Accepted, a podcast where every week we challenge each other back and forth to a new movie or show. And this week it is House of the Dragon, Episode 6, Small Folks. I'm Thomas, and I'm here with Frank.
Hey, everybody.
So, what did we think about this episode?
This felt like a Game of Thrones episode. There was some real good conversations, setting up some pretty amazing finale episodes. We're going to find some big battles, but this felt like we were earning it. It was a slow episode. It was the second slow episode in a row, sure, but I think this is kind of where the writing is to show off, and we get to really see some characters flush out who they're going to be, and I think that's really really interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I agreed. I think we see more so of Alicent losing power. I see more of Aemond and the way he's treating himself as Prince Regent. On the counter side, we see another Prince Regent acting like their king in Daemon. And then we see where Rhaenyra, I almost said Daenerys, but Rhaenyra is kind of really feeling the weight of her leadership and not being able to do much. And we see by the end of it, she was like, screw that. I'm going to take I was going to say bull by the horns, but really the dragon by the wings. And I'm going to go do something. So yeah, this was a solid one, I think, overall, even though it was a little slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our rundown. You have my timer for me?
Sure do.
All right, so this might not be super in chronological order. I want to throw that out there, just a heads up on that. So don't at me, bros. But let's go ahead and get started. So I want to first off say, yes, there's unrest in King's Landing. We're seeing the small folks, which is of course the name of the episode, are struggling under some tighter times, and especially bad because you keep hearing rumors about like, man, now that Aemond's in charge, he's throwing parties every night, and man, look at those sheep. They're gonna go feed the dragons, and I'm starving. So that's not going well. Yeah, they have the idea like, hey, we can use somebody with Targaryen blood to try to ride a dragon. So they tap the shoulder of Sir Stefan Darklyn. He is one of her king's guards, one of Rhaenyra's, and gonna have him try. He does try. They're singing I love that little song they sing. Kind of that's what we heard from Daemon in season 1. It did not go well, and so he's gone. Meanwhile, let's go back to that unrest. We'll go back to this. With all that unrest, Massaria suggests, like, let's send some food. They do, with the flag, with the banner, showing that, hey, Rhaenyra still loves you guys. In the meantime, Alicent, who's losing all her power at council, she loses her power to her son, and is being said to just like, hey, go be a pretty face. She and Helena go to pray for her son, Aegon, and now that the city's unrest, they go and attack them. And it's like, not good. They barely escape. Aemond, who's like, oh yeah, I need a new hand, decides to bring back Otto Hightower, but Otto Hightower is not responding. He's getting ghosted. Aegon's condition looks terrible, but he is healing slowly. He's visited by his mother, Aemond, and Larys Strong. His mother's telling him like, hey, you've got this. Aemond's like, hey buddy, guess who's in charge and who's going to stay in charge? And Larys is like, hopefully you like your mind, because that's all you have left now. We had a moment where Cole was leaving, and they were going to do their goodbyes, and she's just kind of like a quick nod, like, I can't tell anybody I love you. So there's that whole problem going on. Daemon still experiencing visions, this time of his brother, King Viserys, which is cool. No way. Are you serious? Oh my God.
That's it. Whoops. Sorry. I was like trying to keep track of everything, but yeah, that's the time on this one. But yeah, let's kind of wrap up where the end of the episode is.
All right. Yeah. Alex Rivers clearly killed Tully. And we see that Seasmoke chooses a new rider, and it's going to be, is it Aaron? Why?
I would say Adam. Adam of
We were
Hall,
talking
right?
about that beforehand, right? Like, I think it's Aaron. It's like, not.
Aaron, yeah. You know what though? That's what's funny about the two brothers though, is that they have kind of basic names, but it's spelled very Game of Thrones-ish. Like
that's like the Eric and Eric thing. It was like
exactly
just Eric. Like when you look at it, there was like some Y's and two R's, and
yeah. One with the E, one with the A. But yeah, it's very Game of Thronesy. But yeah. There's just a lot of setup going on, right? And I like that we're here because I do want to talk about Corlys. One of the things that Rhaenys says to him is that, we both know that's your son. Why don't you treat them and bring them in like they're your sons? We see very much that Alan does not want that. He's like, we've been living under their boot the whole time, staring at that castle, never thinking that we could be a part of it. And we even see that he's shaving his head to get rid of those white hairs, which was such a cool detail. I'm like, how did they do that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just from a production standpoint, standpoint, I'm like, did they have to individually glue on little hair things? You
Or
know, like I don't
CGI
know.
the hair on or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like that seems too low to bleach, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't put bleach on your scalp. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm not a saloner. I don't know
You're
whatever
not
it
a
is.
saloner? That's
No,
such a
not
good
a
term.
saloner. I'm not a hairdresser or none of that kind of stuff, you know? So like I don't know how it works, but I thought
Yeah.
that was just really cool to show that he really is his son. And then when you look at his brother Adam, he has that Valerian hair too, just not like bleach blonde white.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And he has kind of the demeanor I would expect. I mean, they both really do. It's all about that flipping coin thing. But the way that he's been looking at Sea Smoke as he's flying by, which is really cool, kind of like he appreciates it. Like there's a longing for Sea Smoke, which I like that that's the guy that gets it, not the guy that's surprised. Not that I mean, poor Dirkland is like, I've just shown up to work today. I didn't know that he's going to be attacked by a dragon, but this feels like it was more deserved, and I really appreciate and then when Sea Smoke's like coming down, like wants to play, almost like a big dog that's like a little too aggressive. And so he goes and hides and stuff like that, and then he gets right into his face. That was a really cool scene.
That was cool. Yeah. But it's like those dogs too. You know, when people go to the pound or even, you know, whatever, just a pet store and they're like, but then the dog just jumped into my arms and I knew that they were the one. Did feel like that, you know, and which was really cool. And we get to see the process from somebody getting rejected and seemingly being worthy, seemingly being of a high house, and still just getting turned into like a s'more. And then the other person, you know, who comes from whatever, you know, can you imagine having servants and all that stuff, and then is worthy of the dragon? It's a cool narrative when you look at who was able to get the dragon, who wasn't.
And it just shows that like this episode being called Small Folk, it's great because Rhaenyra and her son are kind of not even thinking about. They even mentioned like, oh, we could see there's other great houses that have Targaryens, and then she's like, oh, they're not going to come now that what happened to Darkland. They didn't even think about like, yeah, but also like Targaryens are sleeping with everybody. And before her grandmother in this show, it's not necessarily in the books that way, but her grandmother, Jaehaerys' wife, made it to where if you're a dragon seed, you don't get special privileges. But before then, being a dragon seed, having that white hair meant you were kind of cool shit. Like you were at least going to be promoted at work kind of thing. Nowadays, they purposely didn't want to do that because then they would almost get better treatment than the actual natural born sons. They had brown hair, something like that. But anyways, so
That's interesting though. Like, I didn't even think about because who's the person that's in the Red Keep now, and he has a wife and he has a sick daughter, and he clearly has Targaryen hair.
yeah, that's Hugh the Hammer.
Hugh, and I'm loving Hugh already, you know, and it's like clearly that guy was related to some Targaryen. You know, you'd think you'd show him a little bit of respect, even just because you're like, man, even if it's not his dad or his uncle, like he's related to somebody, and I don't want to get on that guy's bad side, you know.
And Ulf too, who's seeing the downtrodden of the people. I think it's super important that they're showing those two specifically, but these new dragon riders coming from humble grounds, and then their perspective on this entire civil war is going to be with those eyes. They're going to see how the royalty treats people, and so any decision they make going forward will probably be made with that.
Right. Yeah, I love the. Yeah, absolutely. I love the conversation where we see it's Aemond's kind of brothel lady that he frequents and everything, and she's in there just spreading rumors in the inn. And is it Olaf or is it Hugh? I'm getting them both.
That
confused now,
one's
but-
Olaf.
Olaf, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell. And he's like, wait, what? You know, they're having parties in here and we have fish soup every day. We have no food and the food is rotting. And like, God, you know, Viserys would never do this to us. And just those seeds are getting planted on how the royalty treats the small folk and how royalty treats themselves. Is like they take all the best things for themselves, even in a time when nobody has anything. So I just love that. You're right. Like, how could they not move forward if, you know, we both know that they're dragon seeds now? How can they not go forward when they have more power and not think like, you know, I'm gonna do this so differently than the rulers before me.
Exactly. I'm going to be worried about the little people. It's pretty interesting.
That too. Yeah. Exactly. I thought that was a good conversation to put in this episode.
The other ones that we're looking at. So we have the two brothers, of course, but then there's also clearly Rhaenyra, who finds the burnt sheep, and that's from Sheep Stealer, the dragon Sheep Stealer that's apparently in the airs. And it's almost as if they sent for her thinking she can tame that dragon and get rid of it. Did you get that vibe? Like that was kind of the trick, like, oh, you lied to me, you know?
Well, before we started recording, I had to have you explain it to me because I don't know where this castle is in relation to like Rook's Rest or anything. And I was like,
Yeah.
whose dragon is going around near this castle and like burning this sheep and eating it? You know, I was like, whose one is that? I was like, was there a green nearby? And that's why that lady sent for Rhaenyra and them to come with dragons. Was it a black or was it Daemon's dragon on the way over there, like Caraxes or something?
Could have been. Yeah.
But you explained it to me, and yeah, could you tell us what it's about?
The idea is that it's a dragon named Sheep Stealer, and he's a wild dragon. And there are a few wild dragons out there. Most of them
Didn't
sleep
know that.
underneath Dragonstone. There's like, but it's like very cavernous. Some that don't. And so this one apparently, according to the show, has gone to the Vale to eat sheep where it's plentiful over there. There are a lot of dragons. Like I was telling you, probably one of my favorites that's not unclaimed is the cannibal who eats other dragons. He eats smaller dragons. He's black. He looks awesome. He's like a smaller version of Balerion. Yeah, he's cool looking.
That's awesome. And I think if you're not following us on social media, go over there. We posted all the dragons at some point. It's somewhere on Challenge Accepted on Threads. I want to say possibly on Instagram too. But anyways, go over there and check it out so you can see these dragons in scale too, because you're right. Cannibal's design is so sick, and also puts it in perspective when you look at Sunfire versus Meleys versus Vhagar, and we just got to see that a couple episodes ago. And yeah, like obviously you could tell the scale there, but seeing them in succession of like biggest to smallest, you're like, holy crap! All dragons are not created equal, so it's interesting. Yeah. So then taking it back to Rhaenyra and that lady of the house, I'm not sure what her name is, but she's with her, I guess, nephews. You know, she's like, I thought you were going to bring a big dragon. And she's like, a dragon's a dragon. And one of the coolest scenes in this was the little dragons kind of around the room as Rhaenyra's all sad. Like, maybe I'm going to Pentos, I think, you know, but I just think it's so sick. Like, that is such a flex from the Targaryens and Valerians where it's like, yeah, we're so close to the dragons. They can just be chilling in our house. You know?
Yeah, because so when oh god, guys gotta read the books. So when there's a baby, when there's like a baby Targaryen or Targaryen, they put a dragon egg and this is your dragon. They put it in your thing with you, and so like
your crib. Right?
Rhaenyra's dragon. They said like none of the dragons took to Rhaenyra. Yeah, sure, none of them did, but also her egg never hatched. So like they basically get you a starting Pokemon right off the bat. So these little dragons that are walking around are the lifelong companions of the dragons that are the kids that are there. And so there are definitely times where, like we saw with Aemond. Aemond didn't have a baby dragon, but after Vhagar killed Laenor, oh god damn it, I'm sorry, so many names. Anyways, so they can adopt older ones too.
Right, and that was Daemon's wife, right?
Daemon's wife, yeah.
Yeah, got it. And that was just so cool. It was just like a small little nod to this house and what this lineage, along with the hair, is a symbol of. You know, it's like we have these things as pets, and I just thought that was cool. And it makes sense why that lady was asking for a dragon. Like, we're not vulnerable to any soldier or to any monster that can charge the gates. But from above, that's the only place we're vulnerable. That's why we need you to bring a dragon, which makes that story make a lot more sense. So,
which is where she was vulnerable. Cool. That makes sense. Actually, as you're saying that makes sense because sheep stealers killing our sheep. So they probably wanted somebody to bring a dragon to kill the dragon that's in their place, not necessarily tame it, but probably just kill it and get rid of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very cool. The kids are doing very big things. We see that, Jacaerys too is he's kind of pushing against his mom. They obviously have come up with this idea to find a dragon seed to put it on Sea Smoke. And I love how it also kind of conflicts Rhaenyra in this episode. She's very much like, how can I get anybody to trust me when my own son doesn't trust me? And he's really been pushing back a lot. Obviously, he wants the best for the realm. Unlike Aemond, he actually respects his mom. And we'll talk about what Aemond does to Alicent in a second. But you can see that Jacaerys really does respect his mom, and he wants her to really ascend to the throne because she deserves it. But he's also pushing back like, hey, you're taking things too lightly. We should be showing more muscle. And I think it kind of gets to her in this episode where she even slaps that one advisor in the halls and says, I think you forgot that you need to fear me. Yeah. And I was like, Oh yeah, it was that kind of like, yeah, you're a badass girl, get it. But like, yeah, it did surprise me. It caught me off guard. What did you think?
One of my first off, he's a Katagar. They are the third house that has Valerian blood, so he actually
Oh
is
wow.
like Valerians and Targaryens, but excuse the language, they're the little bitches of the three of them. Like they are the
Yeah.
dumpster fire ones. So it's like the fact that she turned around, so I was like, I'm a Targaryen, buddy. Don't you forget, you might have white hair, but who gives a crap? You know,
Yeah.
I loved that. So, yes, one of the big narratives across all of House of the Dragon, and there's a lot of it in Game of Thrones as well. We saw with Sansa and stuff, is that the women are being overshadowed by war-hungry, brutish, childish men, honestly. And if we just listened to the women, we would have been in a good spot. Clearly heavy-handed in House of the Dragon, but it was also there in Game of Thrones, so don't question that. It's definitely there too. And with this one, we're seeing that, like, yeah, Alicent, who has the wise counsel, who says, "Hey, keep Otto Hightower. He made you king. He was, hand of the king for 3 kings. Keep him around." And Aemond realizes that because Aemond's a studied man to bring him back. But on Rhaenyra's side, she's sitting there with people who will just not listen to her only because she's a woman. That's the only reason they're not listening to her. She's the one with the freaking dragon in the room. And so she has to start acting a little bit more Targaryen. But her son, her husband, everybody's like wanting to jump to war. And she's trying to be as cautious as possible. Great example is the Dragon Seed. Her son wants to go out and find all the bastards, or find, not necessarily bastards in his right now, but it will be in a sec, and just like throw 200 of them at the dragon and see which one sticks. Meanwhile, she's like, we're losing people who support us when you do that, because
Right.
if they're willing to come to us and even test this whole dragon thing up, they're a team black person. And right now, she just lost one of her guards. So
Right.
it's just, if we listen to the women, we'd be fine in this story. That's definitely the case, and they're just being
Right.
overshadowed.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the one person that they did listen to for a while though was Alicent, I will say. And now that Aegon is in recovery and Aemon is fully in charge of everything, how did you feel about that choice where he says, "Mom, yeah, you need to step down. You don't have a place here anymore."
I think it's because he thinks he learned everything he needs to from her, and he sees, it's so sad, but they mentioned it. Like, why don't you marry the Greyjoys? Because Alicent, by far, the biggest value she adds to that table is that she could be married off. And so if they marry to the Greyjoys, which he's like in his teens and he's a rapist and a plunderer, he's an awful person. I mean, he's awful,
Wow.
but they're going to have to work with him in a second. But like, just marry him off. And she's like, "You're going to throw me to wolves," but that would lock down a friend, and that's the second biggest navy in the kingdom that can help take on the blockade that's starving the people. So that's the thing, is Aemon just sees like, she's very valuable, and I can get an entire navy for her. So why do I need her advice here? I think I learned everything from her. I'll just get Otto Hightower, the one that taught her. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I think for me, I was like, man, that is harsh. But that also shows the divide between her and her and Aemon versus her and Aegon. And it's a completely different relationship. It's like
is. That's a great catch.
Aegon was like a lovable idiot in some ways. I mean, yeah, he was a bastard in his own right, but he was, he was less of a threat. Aemon is very much a threat at every turn. He's sharp, he's cunning, he's just like straight to the point. He obviously, we've seen at the battle where a lot of people don't know, and she knows, I think at this point, that Aemon did burn his brother. Like there were, maybe he took down Rhaenys in the same time, but really you are also going for Aegon. And gosh, that was brutal. As somebody who is a burn survivor, that looked pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie. They did a
Totally.
good job. Yeah.
With Aegon, it's all about ambition and not wanting the role. Aegon didn't want to be king. He just wanted to get drunk. And they had to like literally drag him to go get the crown on him. Aemon has wanted that crown since day one, since he's a kid being bullied. And so you're seeing that like the guy who didn't want to be king didn't take it seriously. He's very much Robert Baratheon, right? The guy that wanted to be king is far too ambitious and will burn down the kingdom if it means he can be a little higher on the... He's not doing bad militarily, honestly, but so it's... And then we have Daemon on the other side doing the exact same thing, right? Like Daemon sitting there, he's so happy to hear that Tully died, just because he's like, finally, the kid's in charge, the kid will listen to me. I don't have to deal with that old man because Alice Rivers brought up a great point. the fact that Alice Rivers or that Tullys are around. They're not the strongest, they're not the biggest, but they're the wisest. And so they've always been able to be the council that keeps the rest of the Riverlands together. And you need them. And so now that it's the kid there, you use the kid to do that. But I do like, it's very clear, and Aemond catches it, where they're like, yeah, Alice Rivers went there to try to give her what help she could, but then he died. It's like, oh, okay, Alice Rivers went over there and killed him, so that Daemon didn't have to worry about the old man anymore. That's cool.
Right. It is. Because it's an unlikely partnership, friendship, a seemingly romantic relationship too, right? Like they haven't crossed that line yet. But for some reason they keep getting drawn to each other. And she knows what's going on in his head. All these crazy dreams, Viserys coming back and him waking up in a different room than where he thought he was and all that stuff. It's just weird. It's magical. But there's also like, she really kind of gets him too, and she can really push back against him in a way that nobody can, not even Rhaenyra can. So, something is going that direction. And I think it was very smart of you to bring up Daemon's name when we're talking about Aemond, because I think this is what the show is doing well. It's like, it's not just a mirror of the two mothers, right? Where we're seeing Alicent and we're seeing Rhaenyra, and you were saying it's very different in the book. But also, like, we're seeing the sons or the oldest brothers who got passed over for the crown. We're seeing the people who the crown's supposed to go to. There's just these really great mirrors that are getting brought up through all the different characters. Again, Sir Eric and Eric, but like this was just, this was another episode kind of highlighting those different mirroring characters.
Yeah. While this episode is slow, and I do appreciate the more dialogue heavy, especially when it's this well written, do you feel like they might be doing a little bit too much Daemon crazy dreams?
I mean, I feel like I've gotten the point. Like, I get it. Harrenhal is cursed, or Alice is putting some kind of spell on him. Like, either way, like I get it. He's crazy, but I also, this was one of the first episodes. If I really look at what Matt Smith brings to the table, he gets to be like really emotional, and we get to see what happens with him and Viserys. And like when Viserys' wife dies, he's really torn up about it. But if you go back to season 1, it's like he chose his heir over his wife. And obviously both of them don't make it, but you see how torn up he is. And we wouldn't have gotten this scene if you don't go back and kind of have Daemon reflect on the past, And so I thought that was pretty cool. And then also seeing him like really fall apart and get emotional, because again, you go back to season 1, he's heartless. Like, dude is just murdering everybody. His dragon stomping on his own people just to like win the battle, So I like, this is some character growth out of him, but I think I'm good on crazy Daemon for the rest of the season.
Yeah, but you're right though. Matt Smith really did show off today. He did show off with that whole like kind of breaking part. I did like how when he's like ready to leave, he lists off like it's cursed, the weird bed, poison. He like lists like, all of those are actually in play. You actually have named everything that's against you. You have all the different things go. I loved that. That was so fantastic. So there's a character I think is going to be changed, and I think it's at this point it was confirmed essentially. There's a character named Nettles, and I mentioned her before, and I think Rhaenyra's going to be being her. She looks just like Rhaenyra and everything like that. And in the book, I'm going to say this because it's not going to happen, right? Because Nettles doesn't exist. But in the book, Nettles and Daemon go to Harrenhal, and they're kind of hunting, and they're trying to basically create enough ruckus to bring out some of the greens. And to do something specifically, I'm not going to say that part. But anyways, in that, they make sure to talk about how Daemon is sleeping with Nettles, and that they became romantic pretty quickly. I'm excited for that change, because then if it's Rhaenyra, it could be a chance for Daemon to connect with his daughter and finally form a relationship he hasn't had. No. I mean, like, actually be a good dad. Yeah. Okay, because I was you said he was hooking with Nettles, and I didn't know where Nettles stood in here. Right. But like, and but this is Targaryens here. You know what I mean? Like, and we did just hear about the White Worm and her dad, but
right.
So totally fair. I know. But no, what I mean is he never attached with Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra didn't tame a dragon. And so he kind of belittled her. He liked Baela, but not her. And so this could be a time for him to be redeeming himself. And so I like that we're kind of breaking him in Harrenhal so that it can stage that moment where he sees his daughter with a dragon. He's like, I have a chance to be a dad. I need to kind of rectify this. And that's kind of what's nice is we're starting to break messed up Daemon, and we're starting to form a new Daemon that then could be worthy to earn Rhaenyra's love again. which should be
Yeah.
in representing actually the family he's left behind, not just Rhaena, but I think she's going to be the tool for that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That would be a big change for Damon, right? Because we see again,
Yes.
if you take the reflection of what Aemon is, he's him, but like last season.
Yeah.
So it would be nice. I mean, Damon, if his character keeps surviving, there has to be change for him to be interesting. We're seeing that change. So I think that would be really freaking cool. And yeah, it's even for the kids he has now, it doesn't seem like he's ever been a dad. Like he's fine with leaving not only his wife, but everybody, his kids too, to go. I don't know, do what in Harrenhal to pretend and make believe playing king,
I know.
So yeah, he needs some change.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited for what's coming up for him. And I think that they're making some really good choices with that character. It's just that I'm a little bit exhausted with dreams. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, again, come on, buddy.
I
But
know.
next episode, it looks like he's actually bringing together the Tullys, the Brackens, and all them, and getting that stuff figured out, which is what we've been waiting for. And Aemon called it out. He says, he even said, like, if Daemon actually gets them to all work together, I can no longer beat him. And I was like, aha, the threat is real. So we haven't heard that yet. The fact that
Yeah.
Daemon is actually making progress in a place we thought he was just wasting his time. And it's like, oh shit, wait a minute. That's good.
Yeah. That's super cool. There was another character that I really like what happened and what they did in this episode, which is Larys Strong. I thought he had a really interesting arc in this episode. He has definitely been the puppeteer behind the scenes for
Yeah.
all of these seasons so far. And this is the first time he can't overstep Aemon. And he tries to give him counsel and he thinks he's going to be appointed hand of the king.
Yeah.
And Aemon says, no, go get grandpa.
Yeah.
That was pretty harsh. I dug it though, because I kind of hate Larys, but yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I loved it because Aemon has been bullying around lesser people, like people not as intelligent as him, all his life, and feigning his crippledness for that. And in this scene, we had such real moments. So he hit a brick wall with somebody who like, oh no, I've hit the books, buddy. I know how to run a country. And then he goes to Aegon and he's, I think for the first time in a long time, frank with somebody and says like, hey man, you need to be aware that you're going to have to start using your mind and that your body will never be the same again. And we see Aegon, God, it's so heartbreaking. But like this character that I frankly don't like, but he starts to cry and you're just like, yeah, you're just realizing a new reality. That's the rest of your life. It's crushing. It's crushing.
It is crushing. I mean, in real life, I've definitely had those moments too. So yeah, it is. I know what he's going through, and yeah, it is very tough. But that actor does a tremendous job. That is the harsh reality of what his life is going to be moving forward, and I kind of appreciated that scene. It's just like sometimes you just get crap news, and you just have to learn. It's just that first domino getting tipped over before you can actually like recover emotionally and mentally and everything. So I thought that was really well done scene.
Yeah. I fully agree with you. Let's see. The last thing I want to make sure to mention, I'm thinking, go through everything. The fact that Otto Hightower's not getting back to them, and then we hear that, oh no, there's war down there. In the first season when was it Kristen Cole? Kristen Cole like killed that one guy with a ball in the back of his head. You remember that? And he was like the first, like, oh my God, they just killed somebody in the council. And it was Kristen Cole, his first time being a jerk. That dude, his family is going to war because of that. And so so right now, like the high tower's being attacked, but everything in that area is being attacked. That's another, because that's like the biggest food source down there. That's another food source that's not coming in now. And so it's just going to starve the people more and more. And it goes down to Kristen Cole making a stupid move again that did that one.
Wow. God dang, Sir Kristen Cole is just chaos. And he's even backed off being kind of an a-hole, at least for these last few episodes.
Yeah.
So, man, but the repercussions for that guy never feeling like he's good enough or that someone overlooked him or that Rhaenyra overlooked him, man, that was a grave mistake, man.
Yeah.
There was something else that crazy that happened, and this was one of the more action or like more high energy points, which is Alicent and what is her daughter's name? Helena trying to escape. That was crazy. What do they call her? The mother, the queen of fish or something, and that guy
Oh
throws
yeah,
that fish in her
because that's all
face.
they can eat
Oh,
is because it's just fish right there at the bay.
right, right. Oh,
Yeah.
that was so gross. But you actually, there was that second where I'm like, man, they're screwed. They're gonna get
Yeah.
killed right here. And luckily, people stepped in, but there was a lot of what do they call them, like white coats, I think, or something.
Oh,
White cloaks.
oh, God, yeah, white cloaks.
Yeah.
Gosh dang, yeah, the Kingsguard. That's it,
The
Kingsguard.
Kings are, yeah, I
There's too
mean,
many
they just
names.
get overrun. There's so many names, definitely. And they're not hard names, but they're like
Oh, it's just a lot of
variations of the
them.
same name. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes they're so basic mixed with certain other basic things that it makes it
Yeah.
hard to remember. But
That's like
also
the
like
Targaryen names. It's like, guys,
totally.
can somebody just name their kid Tom? Come on, help us all
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, more Toms.
Yeah, more
I'm about
Toms.
it. But,
Frank Targaryen has a good ring to it as well. I want to throw that out there.
I'm not mad at it. It actually sounds pretty cool. But
Oh,
yeah,
God.
that scene was pretty heavy, and I think she has to realize all of this, that everything that she's set up and put in place, with her sons, and with this prophecy, and now she knows the truth, and she's actively denying it. I think she's really catching on how much this has screwed her.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting character turn for Alicent. I thought that was, yeah, this story for her is really, really well done. And I really hated her, I want to say, at points last season. But now I'm starting to also feel kind of bad for her.
How great is the writing then? Because like Aegon, somebody
So
I
good.
hate, Laris, somebody I hate, and that again, that conversation they had in this episode, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, what am I doing liking these two characters right now? And it's just,
Ser-
it's the writing, it's the performance, it's a stellar job all the way around.
Yeah, but I mean, if I think about Game of Thrones, you have the Hound, you have
Jamie Lannister.
Jamie Lannister. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like I
Yep.
hated Jamie Lannister, and by the end of it, you're like, I kind of like this dude.
Yeah.
I wish he didn't die under a bunch of rocks with
Yeah.
Cersei, but other than that, he really won me over by the end of the show. And yeah, again, this is one of the best written shows, I think, for that reason. And yeah, the end, we see that Rhaenyra no longer wants to just sit behind the scenes. Somebody is basically taking a dragon, and she's going to take it into her own hands. And yeah, I think it's about damn time, and she's flexing.
She's gonna learn that you don't need to go for the high end people. You can go for the bastards. Talking about Rhaenyra, I think it's going to be one of the bigger moments remembered is her and Massaria making out.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so reflecting back to the book thing. First thing, guys, there's not a lot of material. Like the book is a textbook, so and it's spanning 300 years. So can you imagine how little of that big ass book is this? And so I would say it's like a total of 60 pages is all of the House of the Dragons, all 3 seasons that there's going to be. It's like 60 pages.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like
fun
when
for-
I keep telling you, like you should read the book, it's because you only have to read 60 pages for this story.
Send me the 60 pages. I'll do it.
Okay, there we go. Let me introduce you to Libby, my best friend.
There you go.
But so that what I'm saying is like people who are going to say maybe that this didn't happen in the book. First off, they are considered very good friends. Maesters say like they're very good friends. Secondly, the White Worm is sleeping with Daemon for sure, and it's something where Rhaenyra knows about it. And I called it a couple weeks ago, like it's like a throuple, as in like I like Rhaenyra, I like having her around. She's a very good friend of mine, and you kind of take care of my husband, and you get him off my back. And so I think we're kind of seeing like the way that the narrative works for this, the way the storytelling and how it's echoed down. If you were to see this from outside, like 2 turns over, you would say like, oh yeah, they're very good friends and she's sleeping with Daemon. But what you don't know, what they're keeping behind the doors is the fact that no, she's sleeping with the White Worm. And so, it's just who's telling the story. And that's also the same thing with Victor's telling the story. So as much as we're like, oh man, Alicent's not that bad. In the book, it's different because it's being told by people who would want Alicent to sound bad.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, and it seems very natural in the show without, it doesn't feel heavy-handed. Like she's been the only real confidant for Rhaenyra besides Jacaerys, but also like there's that weird relationship where your parents don't want to worry the kids as much or only want the kids to know as much as they need to, and I understand it from that point. She has a new hand, but he obviously has gone through so much loss. I'm sure he kind of blames Rhaenyra sometimes for Rhaenys'
Very
death.
much does. That's
Yeah,
important.
and his son's death, and so it makes sense why she wouldn't be able to open up to him as much. So Mazaria and being a confidant makes a ton of sense, and for her to be somebody that she could actually like really love. I think it makes a ton of sense for me in this story. So yeah, I'm sure people are gonna have a problem with it, but for me, I don't see why you would. It just makes so much sense.
And just even looking back, like I was telling you guys beforehand, the House of the Dragon, a lot of it is that the women are being overlooked by men. And then in this episode, God, it was such a cool little scene. We have Rhaenyra by herself, and she just slapped that dude, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in charge. You know, you forgot to fear me." Then she's over there playing with a sword, which had a cool hilt that had the dragon wings on the bottom of the hilt, and she's sitting there kind of like, "This is how I would stab." She was trained to be like her dad and her grandfather, to not go to war. She was trained to negotiate, so she doesn't know how to fight. And so that's kind of it. But so she's kind of like, yeah, this is what I need. I need to be strong like Daemon would be, because I don't have Daemon. And then when the White Worm comes in and like they have the conversation and she's carrying the sword and she's leaving, and the White Worm's like, hey, that suits you. You know, that looks good on you. And then she puts it down, but it was kind of like, she sees me. You know, nobody else sees me. She sees me.
Oh, that's such a good point, man. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, she even says it in this episode too. Like, rather being, I think, like the pen in something, I want to be the shield and the sword. And it's like very much her. But I also, Mazzari is proving too, like there's other ways to win the war. Turn all the people who your enemies rule against them. And that move of sending the gifts of those little boats with the flags on them, with all the food, was such a good move, and just completely turning the small folk in the keep against them. I just thought this was a very smartly done episode. Like, it was just really smart.
I want to shout that out to you as we're talking about how good the writers are for this show. That too is for the show only, not in the books. And it was just such a good move. I thought it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, you were saying it's funny because it definitely has felt for me this season that the Greens have the upper hand, right? They have the bigger dragons. They had the most powerful families uniting them. They had the most money and all those things. And the Blacks are sitting in Dragonstone with a few dragon riders and no army and all that stuff. And you're like, how are they going to do this? But, if you want to beat somebody bigger than you, you sometimes have to use creativity. You have to think outside the box. And that seemed like such a smart outside the box move. I thought that was super cool.
I like, Laris the Clubfoot versus the White Worm. It's very much Littlefinger and Viserys.
Or Tyrion.
Or Tyrion. Yeah, I love like who? Oh, you got a sword. Who cares? I can, turn a city against you or whatever. Yeah, it's so fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's so
speaking
good.
of, I gotta say it. I mentioned it off mic. Tyrion, the Lannisters. We got Reigns of Castamere, the Lannister music at the very beginning of this episode. They played the Reigns of Castamere show. It's the Lannister theme song. If you watch Game of Thrones, anytime you heard that song, it was because Lannisters were about to make a move. So if you ever watch Game of Thrones, you hear that song that's in this episode, it's because Lannisters are making a move or they're bragging or something like that. It's so cool.
Yeah, and one of the best times, I guess, best use of it was in one of the most popular episodes, right? Which was
the Red Wedding. So if that episode is being told through the point of view of Catelyn, and she sees that Bolton has armor on underneath. That's not weird. You shouldn't be wearing armor underneath your clothes to a wedding. And then she notices that the band starts to play the Reigns of Castamere, the Lannister theme song. And she's like, "Wait a minute, we're fighting the Lannisters. That's not good. This is a trap. Then the trap is sprung." But the Reigns of Castamere is the hint that's like, oh shit. And in the book too, that's one of the things where you're like, oh, the band plays the Reigns of Castamere. And in the book, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, be playing Reigns of Castamere at this point?
Yeah, why? The Lannisters aren't here. At least we don't think they're here. What's going on? Instantly, that must be the red light going off like danger, danger.
I am such a damn dork. Like my mopping song is singing Reigns of Castamere.
Hey, dude, that helps you mop. That sounds awesome. But
when you're bored and you're just like singing something else, I always sing that song. Such a loser.
It's great. It's all right. Sometimes I don't know, have a specific time here now, but like the Imperial March will just pop up in my head. Maybe
X-Men
that's
theme
my
song?
mopping song. Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's there. So there you go.
Oh man, we're dorks.
Yeah, we're nerds. We're nerds. It's all right. What a time to be a nerd and a dork.
Oh, it's good times, man. You're going to San Diego Comic-Con next week, right?
Yeah, this week it's coming up, man. It's wild.
It's coming up fast.
Picking up my ticket on Tuesday and then Wednesday preview night. So it's going on, man. It's here. I can't believe it.
So for the next House of the Dragon, likely you won't be here because hey, you're dealing with crazy ass convention. As for Deadpool and Wolverine, we're gonna try to have you on, right? We're gonna figure out how we're gonna do that. So just kind of keep an eye out.
Yeah. I'm really gonna try. I really want to talk with you guys about Deadpool and Wolverine because God, it's gonna be so good. But I do have tickets for Thursday night. We'll see how I get in there, but yeah, I don't know, man. I want to be there, basically.
I'm going Friday morning, so I mean it'll be a little bit for me.
Okay,
So,
okay. All
yeah.
right, so we have time on Friday then. Maybe
Yeah.
even Saturday. Okay, okay.
Yeah. That's gonna be
like
dope.
it.
I cannot wait for that. So just a heads up that we might have a couple guests, but I'm assuming you're gonna post a couple pictures to Challenge Accepted from all the cool things you're gonna be doing down there. So
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure you guys follow us
absolutely.
on social media.
Yeah, especially things that we're talking about. If there's some Acolyte footage, if there's some House of the Dragon stuff, if there's Star Trek, anything that's movie, TV related that we've talked about or will be talking about, I'm definitely going to be trying to put up as many pictures on social media to Challenge Accepted. So even more reason to follow us over there.
Absolutely. And if you're already going to San Diego Comic-Con and you got really lucky with your tickets, you're gonna be hosting a panel. Can you go and tell everybody what that panel's about?
Yeah, thanks. So on Thursday we'll post the venue. I'm not sure what the venue is at San Diego Comic-Con. It's at 4 o'clock on Thursday. The panel is called Why Movies Go Under the Radar with our friend Derek at Underrated Podcast. He's hosting it, and I'm lucky to be one of the panelists. So yeah, it should be a fun one. There's going to be some giveaways. We're going to really dive deep. I'm going to be the most expert person on the panel, so I get to say the craziest shit, and I think it's going to be a good time.
That's gonna be a blast. That's so cool. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys, if you're at San Diego Comic Con, go find Thomas and make sure you follow Challenge Accepted for all the updates and the Joystick Show. Make sure you guys are following the Joystick Show. That'll be a lot of them too. That's gonna be a blast. I'm so excited for that. And then next week we're gonna get back to reviewing movies. So please submit your movies that you guys want to do. We're gonna have a guest on, the newest member of the Geek Freaks Network, and so we're trying to figure out. I was thinking like, hey, while Thomas is gone, do you want to do Deadpool, but we can't. So he's gonna challenge you and
That
me
would
to a
hurt
movie.
my heart.
Yeah, I know. I figured I was like, I don't want to push it, but yeah, I think it'd be fun if he challenges you and me to a movie. We'll have to see what he can find.
Ooh, that's a great idea. Oh, I love that. Okay, heck yeah. Well, beyond this week, then we're gonna have a ton of fun first week of August. But yeah, please, and yeah, maybe we should try to put out a poll or something online that you guys can vote.
Oh, that's a good
vote
idea.
on.
Yeah.
Or submit a topic or submit a movie request, and let's do it.
I bet you money that after San Diego Comic Con, we're gonna want to make a Marvel movie. So maybe we'll put out like 4 Marvel movies to choose from. Maybe we'll do that.
There you go. I think so. I think so.
That's a good idea. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. Oh yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Aloha.